Here.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing? Doing good? There's 98 people. That's pretty good. We have actually almost 440 registered for this today, so we'll give them just a couple more minutes to jump on. I'm looking at all the names to see who all I know here.
It's got to cover that thing.
Can't see the study guide anymore with the link share. Where can I find the guide?
Okay.
Yes.
I'll get it. Okay, guys, I went ahead and I put the link in to the guide. If you didn't get the questions, that you can go ahead and pull that up. Maybe you can put it in a different screen. So we'll be kind of following that format, but we have a lot of activities we're going to share with you today. So we got a couple more minutes. So I'm just so glad my Zoom is working. I've been having a lot of problems. Hey, Lindsay, Skinner. I have not seen you in forever. That's my Texarkana friend. And I see like 4 Lauren Amanzas.
Yeah, we had jokes for you today. There was another one of us, but she changed our name for you.
Hello, everybody.
How are y'all? Doing really good.
Really good.
Thank you for asking.
How are you, Donna?
I'm good. I'm sitting in Shelly's office in a meeting waiting for her to get back in here. So
Yeah, no, me too. Okay, well, we have 12 o'clock, and so I think we're going to go ahead and get started if y'all are ready to go. First of all, I appreciate you guys taking your time with us this afternoon. It is noon for us. I'm not sure where you are, but it is noon here, and for us, that would be our lunchtime. So if you're having your lunchtime right now, I appreciate you giving up that time and spending it with us. So we hope you find this meaningful and helpful. If you've ever followed me before, or you have seen me present, I like to make sure that I give you things that you can use right away and not have to go out and recreate something. So the things that we're going to talk about, I want you to go ahead and take notes, and you can use these ideas for your back to school and to start this process on your campus. So we did, oh, somebody says it's 9 a.m. in the Arctic Circle. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so I'm Stephanie, and I am the owner of Principal Principles and also the co-author of Win Time. And this is?
I'm Morris Lyon. I am a co-author of Win Time, as you know, and work with Stephanie here at school. And we're just excited to have everyone join us and excited about this book study. We'll have to admit, this is the first time for both of us, so I hope y'all are patient with us as we work our way through this. So I don't know if Stephanie want me to say that or not, but this is the first time for us doing a book study. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, but neither one of us have ever conducted a book study before, so we're going to do the best we can, and I think it's you're in for a good treat for that. Morris is actually my boss during the day here at school. We're actually in school, and so when he writes his book with me, I'm his boss. So I like to give him a little bit of hard time on that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want you to collaborate. This is a great PLC group. We're up to 220 people right now. I want you to think about this group of people that you're in this space with right now on how you can collaborate with each other. So I want us to talk about, some things, and feel free to put in the chat some of the things. So as you read this book, or you started reading the first few chapters, or if you've been so anxious and read the whole thing already, then can you tell me what has connected with you in this? Have you found something that really sounds like something you're experiencing right now? And if you want to talk, go ahead and unmute yourself and say something. Anybody?
I'm like, so I'll start us off.
Thank you.
Mike Desalis from Del Rio, Texas. I'm at an elementary K-5 campus, and I will tell you that I just got my book, so I started reading the first chapter. Maybe I'm not into it yet, but I promise that next week I will be set. But I think the one thing that really stands out for me is we're really trying to do some transformational work here at the school. We went from an IR status to not an IR status to this year being the year that we thought for sure we were going to hit it out of the park. But without accountability at this point today, we really just have, our benchmark data and things like that we can celebrate. So I cannot wait to get to the end of this, because I want to just keep growing in the way that we make our school shine. It's been a great thing. I'm about 5 years into administration, about 15 years into school district work. So it's just awesome. And I'm so excited to see you on the screen, and all of us that are fans, we just love it. So we're from Del Rio, Texas.
Thank you. Welcome. That is so nice to hear. Thank you for the purchase too. Anybody else want to say anything?
I'll jump in. Carolyn Bentz. I'm from Corpus Christi, Texas. And I bought the book. I've been a big fan. I follow your blog and your Facebook stuff, and I like read it all the time. But I didn't know what I was getting into when I got the book. And when I started reading it, I was so excited, because these are the conversations we've been having on my campus. I'm a first-year principal. I was named to the position a week before school started. There had been a lot of change at school. We had a new behavioral unit that came on campus. So it was a very tumultuous first semester. And I never really felt we got a good ground, good start for the year. And I didn't feel like we had a good foundation. We've been talking about visioning and things like that. The school has a vision that's 5 years old. And so that was my plan for the summer, was let's really do it right and get everyone on board in the same place so that we'll be successful. And I'm so excited to see that, those 3 questions you ask on page 17, are you struggling to create systems that serve all students regardless of performance levels? And are you trying to grasp how to create a vision so powerful that it lights the hearts of everyone on fire? And those are kind of where I've been swimming all year. So I'm so excited to move forward with campus.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. What we're going to talk about today is visioning stuff, so that I'm going to give you some activities in Morrisville too. If you are in a leadership position of a campus level or a district level, he is going to speak on the district level aspects of that. And of course, mine is the campus level, because all these activities can be done no matter if you're a principal or you're a superintendent or assistant superintendent or whatever that might be. The next time we meet on next Tuesday, it's going to be about the actual win time system, how it looks, how the schedules work, all of that. But before that happens, we have to know where our vision is and how we're going to get there. And it all really ties together. So this is a very important piece that I don't want you to skip over and forget about, because it is hugely impactful once you get to the win time system. Because if you sit there and you create these schedules for your students and create these plans, but they don't understand the purpose behind it all, it's going to fall short for you. So make sure that you get this groundwork done first, and then all of that other stuff will be very meaningful. So we wrote this book actually as a little prodding. He said, Stephanie, we need to write this book. And so, when he tells me something, I have to do it because he's my boss. But I really did feel led to write it. And also we actually have a lot of visitors come to our school and visit and want to see what is happening here, because if you know our story is that I came in 2017, he came in 2016, and the campus was failing. And so he did a lot of work the first year he was here, and then I came in and we put some systems in place here. And in that 1 year, they went from an F to an A, all around all the things that we were putting in place, his groundwork, and then the things that I put in place, which is the win time and some of the things that you'll hear about today. So it just all kind of works together. So we wanted to tell our story after so many visitors are here every month, that we wanted to make sure that we got the story out to the people who could not travel and commute to a little East Texas town. So we're going to jump in here right now. The first question is, what does transforming your school mean to you, and what does that look like? So does anybody want to talk about that? If I say we're going to transform our school, you've got to have that vision in mind. What does transformation actually look like? Anybody?
Well, I'm speaking from a different perspective. I'm an assistant principal. So, and I don't live in the community where I work. So I'm coming into a community. I'm in my second year as an assistant principal. So when you say, what does transforming your school mean to you, and what does that look like? I'm thinking about a mindset shift in a community that is full of fabulous people, good-hearted, genuine people, that and a teaching faculty that is comfortable. And so thinking about a mindset shift and thinking about growth.
Okay, very good. So something to think about: transforming your school is not going to happen overnight. Now, when I said it happened in 1 year for us, you've got to take into consideration his 1 year as well. So it happened in a 2-year time, but you're talking about really hitting the ground running hard with multiple things that were happening. It takes very intentional planning on everybody's part, and something that we communicate on a day-to-day just a day-to-day, and something that just develops over time, but you have to be extremely intentional about it. I want to share with you another book that my very first meeting with my staff is what you're going to hear a lot about today. My very first meeting with them is to talk about this book right here. If you have not ever read this, this should be your next book, okay? Your first book is Win Time, and then this one is called The One Thing. Now, I want you to picture yourself, as you know, in your positions, you're juggling multiple things. I want you to just picture all the things that you're juggling, every single day, trying to keep up with everything, especially in this virtual world that we're living in. I've worked harder now than I've ever had to work. And I see a lot of people nodding their heads. We've had a lot happen and a lot thrown at us in recreating things. So this is the first book that I talked about with my staff, and I'm going to turn the camera where you can see this chart. This chart is actually from 2017 that still hangs in my office on the back of my door. Okay, so it says the big picture is the out circle, and then the little circle inside of that is the small focus, your one thing. And then there's a quote at the bottom. It says, things that matter the most should never be the mercy of the things that matter the least. If you walk away with anything that we say, I want you to remember that quote. The things that matter the most should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least. You've got to decide what is the thing that you're going to focus on. In this book, the author is a little bit about him. He is a real estate agent who is extremely successful. And he realized that on all the things he's doing every single day, he's noticing that he is less effective when he has multiple things juggling at one time. When you narrow down your focus and you focus on one thing and you get really good at that and you implement that one thing, you're going to get very successful and you're going to get greater results. By juggling all these things, you become a little bit burned out. So have any of you experienced burnout because of all the tasks that you're having to do every day? Raise your hand. Yes, I'm seeing it. And so this is a great thing for the staff to do. So on the sticky notes, they are promising one thing that they want to focus on in 2017, that they want to get really good at it. Now, if you are a superintendent right now or in that admin superintendent or administration office, this is a great thing to do with your principals. If you are a principal, this is a great thing to do with your teachers, whatever your position may be, because everybody needs to narrow down what they're going to focus on. And I want you to also be mindful, if you're a superintendent, how much task you're putting on your principals, or if you are a principal putting these many tasks and throwing different things at them, because you're going to get them overwhelmed and burned out in this whole process. So be very careful that you don't throw too much at the staff at one time. Somebody's asking about the quote. Okay, I'm going to say it again. The things that matter the most should never be at the mercy of the things that matter the least. And I will type that in just a second. Mr. Lyons, oh, somebody did write it. Okay, thank you. So now Mr. Lyons is going to talk about a book that it means a lot to him. So.
When we first came on board, and just for a second, we had some people having trouble getting on, so I don't know if you want to look at that while I talk for a minute. When I first came in, just looking at data and stuff, I knew there was going to need to be some changes. So one of the first things that we did as an admin team is we did a book study on growth mindset, which many people may have used already. But it was really coming in new to the district. It was really what I needed to, in order for us to start having conversations around growth, which is not as scary as talking about change. So we broke that up amongst administrators, and we did a chapter each week or so, and we were able to get through that and start having some conversations. I think the thing about transforming your school, and it's different if you've been somewhere for a while and you're going to make a new direction, or if you're coming in new, you get a fresh start. But it's messy. It's messy work. There's really not just a specific guide. You have to use the knowledge you have through book studies and networks. You use the skills you've accomplished, but I still think the largest majority of your success is going to be your mindset. That is going to be the biggest portion of whether you're successful or not, and how you have that mindset yourself on a daily basis, how you model that when you go into meetings or in situations of stress or frustration. I mean, these are all kind of common things, but it's really knowledge and skill is important, but the mindset is huge. And the work that Carol Dweck has done, and that book that we did a book study on, really, I think even with our school board, we did kind of a training and a PowerPoint on that, so they would also have that that mindset and that understanding and that basis of knowledge, so that when we talked about that, they would understand that moving forward. And you know, like Stephanie said, many of the things that we are talking about in this work transcends from admin to campus level or to teacher leaders. You just have to adapt it to your environment. And she hit a big point earlier. You've got to understand the workload. You've got to understand what is most important and focus on those things first. And those are some things we'll get into a little bit deeper here in a moment.
People are asking about the activities. I'm going to share with you, if I can. I don't know where it is. Maybe I can't share it. Is this right? Because it doesn't look right. Let me try. Is it this one? Can y'all see my screen where it says win time? Are y'all seeing win time?
I can see your screen.
It's a white background.
It's coming. It'll pop up.
Okay.
It takes a second or two.
Okay.
Can you share the name of the growth mindset book that you used?
It's Growth Mindset, but I'll type it in the link. It's Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'll type it in.
What about now? No.
Just see a blank screen.
Okay. So see, sometimes my screen shares and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not so sure why. But if you go to Principles and you look up in the header up there, Morris and I also put in a training called Discover Your Instructional Vision, and it has activities after activities that you can do and do with your staff. So if you're wanting more information about any of these activities, some of them are coming straight from that. So Discover Your Instructional Vision. Hey, Lauren's holding that up right now. She has her book. So the next question is, and I'm trying to keep it moving, I know, because we're going to, I don't want to keep you too long. So if I'm going too fast or if I'm going too slow, feel free to talk to us, because we, as you said, we said we're not experts in this at all. Okay, so what has kept you from transforming, or what barriers are you experiencing from moving forward? Now, I can be the first to tell you that the whirlwind, and that is a true knowledge of exactly what's happening on a campus that can prevent you from moving forward. You walk into the school and you think you're going to tackle your goals and your vision for the day, and you're going to have a great day, but then you're hit with discipline. You're hit with a parent waiting for you. You have multiple ARDs. You have a parent, a teacher upset and crying, and you have this and that constantly happening, and you've got to juggle those things, and you've got to also keep in the mindset that I've got to, work on our vision. We've got to keep that moving forward. And so I think if you're having trouble and it's barriers, one of the most things that you're going to face is the daily whirlwind of being a principal or being a campus leader. Same thing with the superintendent. And the way that the tip that I have for you to overcome that is that you have to be extremely intentional that whenever you have a PLC, you never cancel that, regardless of what is happening. My secretaries do not interrupt me on Wednesdays, because that is when we have PLC. We do not book ARDs on Wednesdays. We don't cancel it. If we release school early that day, we still have PLC up until early release on that day. You've got to make it important, because the minute you don't make it important, nobody else will too. So you're setting the standard and those expectations. So whenever you're trying to get through the day-to-day tasks, make sure that you put things on your schedule and you don't break that habit. Don't make a promise. Don't break a promise to your own self. So that would be mine. Now, Mr. Lyon's going to talk about his.
I think the most important thing about moving forward is transformation. Where does type in the chat box? Where does transformation start? Type in the chat box of what you think. Where does transformation start at your school, or if your district or campus or whatever? Where is that exactly? Yes, with me. It starts with you. It starts with me. Here at our district, transformation starts with me. I have to be true to myself. I have to be true to my values. I have to be true to who I am and what I am as a person, as a leader, before I can start being a leader for others. Because if I'm not right myself, if I'm not ready for transformation, if I don't have the knowledge or the skills that I need, if I don't have the mindset I need going into a meeting or some type of event, then I can't fully make transformation happen if I'm not right in my mindset myself. So that's critical. We do a lot of things with Strength Finder. If you've ever looked at that, Strength Finder 2.0, I think it is. That's a really, really good exercise to get in there and understand about yourself, and about, even if you're doing it with a leadership team, of what your strengths are. Mine is restorative, competitive, learner, ideation, and creation. Those are my 5 top strengths. So you really need to spend some time making sure that you are what you need to be, because transformation truly starts within yourself in order for it. Because you have to be able to hold, as she was explaining about win time and PLCs, you really have to hold true to those expectations. And if you're one to, now during quarantine, and maybe I've ate a couple extra cookies or something like that, but it's something that you've really got to have some boundaries, and you've got to understand what is most important. And that one thing she's talking about, you've got to have that drive to not let that change, let that slip.
So I want to, if you have your book on page 15, there's something that I wrote in there. I wanted to read it to you. It says, I know my best chance at making any impact relies on my ability to be an effective leader. So if I want to make an impact, it relies back on me. And so the way for me to be the best leader I can be is I've got to constantly learn and grow. And I do that constantly. I'm learning, I'm reading, I'm researching constantly. I do not have a problem calling up some of you guys and saying, what are you doing that's successful? Because I need to be doing it too. You don't be afraid to pick up that phone and ask and reach out, or email somebody that you know is doing a great job. The next question is, what is the first thing you want to do to get started? The first thing you need to do is communicate. So that first staff meeting, it lasted probably 3.5, 4 hours. So here's another activity that I did. They had to know where we are, because when I walked into this campus, my campus was data rich and action poor. So they collected the data all the time, but they never acted on it. And so what we did that day is I did a data carousel. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before, but what I did around the room that we were in was a piece of chart paper on every station and data all around the room. And then I broke up the teachers into groups. Each group had a different color marker. So I knew that if they visited all the stations, their marker color would be on that chart. So I may have had like 5 different groups. While they were at that station, they had to read the data and then answer some questions on that. And then at the end, we made some discoveries and conclusions from that. So we reflected back on the data, because the teachers, even though they went through the process of always collecting that data, but they didn't know how to read the data and what that meant. So they read it, and then we talked about different things about it, and we came up with a conclusion of that writing campus-wide was a big issue on this campus. And so our goal for the campus for that first year was everybody was going to make an intentional focus in their classroom, no matter what subject that they taught, was going to focus on writing. even PE, even music, everyone. Because if you are a true PLC, everybody is involved, not just the classroom teachers. It is on everybody's responsibility. So if you really want to make an impact, everybody has to know their part and that they're involved in this as well. So do that activity, and the teachers will really got a lot out of that, and data became a very important focus after that.
Yeah, and like I've told all the principals, you know, communication is key, and you need to have those when you have that common message. The larger your audience, the clearer the message has to be. So when you do that work and you work with the teachers, and then when you have events or activities, when you start welcome someone, take that moment to capture that time when you're welcoming your parents and slip in those goals or those visions and the things you're doing on your campus. That's a great opportunity. It's a great way to have some PR for your school district. It's a great way to be that transformational leader, to emphasize to your teachers again and your parents and your students those things you're working on. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it. Just make it a real quick, clear message. I want you, on page 36, when it comes to visioning and things, there's a paragraph there that I just want to share that I wrote about how to start when you're starting about a vision, where to start with. And it says, just like Stephanie was saying, if you struggle where to begin with the data. Solid decisions will always be based on solid data. In our district, after asking why and reviewing data, I could tell we needed to be standard-centered and learner-centered to ensure everyone received what they needed. It was also obvious that we all needed to learn as a staff. I found myself learning how to try to gain trust and to move the organization to transformation. So the idea of being learner-centered started to take the meaning of learners ranging from the students to the superintendent. How can we better prepare students for the future than by modeling learning as education professionals? As educators, we have always verbalized lifelong learning, but our vision embodies the practice. So in order to, we need to practice what we preach. We need to make sure that and it's okay to have a book laying on your desk and share that with your students and have your teachers there and let them see that they're learning. But that's our whole vision set, was to be the model of a learner-centered school, and that meaning from the students to the superintendent, because it was going to take everyone and a whole team in order to get where we needed to be.
Somebody was asking about how did I use specific data or whatever. You have to know that you have to walk into this situation already knowing where they're going to end up. So you lead your conversations or your specific questions towards them to discover the same understanding that you came from. So you're going to have to do a little bit of pre-planning specific questions. And then they think they discovered it, but you already knew it all along. And when I'm going to tell you one thing. The one thing that I used to do is analyze the data and then tell the teachers what I figured out from it. That is the wrong thing to ever do. Let me tell you why. Because they will never learn how to do it on their own, and they will never understand the impact of that data and how it came about. So you've got to let them have that struggle. Struggle is good for them to go through that process. And I had to learn that the hard way, because as somebody that, like me, I like to serve and I like to just dish it all up and say, here it is. But that was the wrong thing to do, because they didn't have an ownership of it. So you kind of lead them to that. I'm seeing Kelly Moore is on here, and I'm actually going to talk about Kelly in just a few minutes. She says, I love the vision for Hawkins, who played a part in developing that vision. Yeah, she did. And what was the board or the district leadership team? You want to answer that?
Yeah, when we started that in 16, as I said, we read the Growth Mindset book by Dweck, and then so we started activities. We started out, anytime you want to start building a vision, and I'm getting ahead a little bit in the next question, but you have to have buy-in, as Stephanie was saying. You've got to ensure that you have, as a visionary leader, you have a gut feeling. That skill and knowledge that you have lends to tell you what direction the district needs to go. But as she said, you've got to build that capacity. So what we kind of did is formed a team. We talked about that. We did those guiding questions as a leadership team. And then we moved into in-service. And in in-service, we did some activities, some of the activities we do in our leadership course that was able to draw some ideas about our values as a district and what we believed in, and kind of started forming that vision piece. And then from that, we had meetings with our board training with our board. So we got an idea from the board what they kind of thought it was. We had the meeting with the administrators, and we kind of got an idea of what we felt we were looking forward. And then we worked with the teachers, and we worked with the parents. And excuse me. And at the end, we all put that information together, and it was surprisingly very similar. And so from that visioning team committee that we put together, then formed our a vision statement. And then we took that back to everyone to say, okay, is this what you understand? Was this what you were saying? Is there things we need to tweak on that? Or is this what everybody understands that we were trying to put forth? And we got consensus on that. You can't ever write a vision statement out with the masses because it's just hard to do. But you gather that input, you take the input back, you build that statement, you put that statement back out for comment, and you come back and finalize that. And that will provide the buy-in and in order for us to move forward. And someone asked what our mission statement was. Yeah, there you go. The model of a learner-centered school. And every word has power. Learner means all of us. Like I said, student to superintendent.
So the next question is, write down your vision for your school. And can any of you state your vision by memory? Okay, so that's kind of where we were as well. Sometimes it might be because it's not a living and breathing vision that you have going on, and it's not communicated enough that you remember it. And everything that you do is not necessarily connected to it. Another reason it might be is because it is a very lengthy paragraph, and ours is very simple. HISD will be a model of a learner-centered school. And that vision hangs in our school in every classroom. And so it's visible. It is something that we talk about often. Everything that we do connects to that. And so I wanted to, whenever I first came, I was not aware of it and kind of in the know of the vision right away. And that is something that is on me. But whatever, I'll be that, I did an activity with my staff, and we developed a campus vision as best we could. And what we had talked about is that the campus itself was a little disconnected. We were experiencing a turnover when I first came in, so I was filling a lot of positions, and we needed to become back to one campus again. So we talked about our vision, and we developed something very simple, that we would be a family here, and we would be a family of learners. And that's what they came up with. And just very simple, and it was very meaningful to them, but that is exactly what they felt that we needed. We needed to be a family again. Hawkins is a very a good community. The teachers are amazing here, and they are dedicated to what they do. And we are extremely blessed for the people that are in our family here at HES. So I want to tell you about another activity, and you too can also find this activity in the manual of that you get from Discover Your Instructional Vision, and it's in the book. So I just printed the page out for me to go over with you. So let me see if you can see it. Right here is another chart. Sheesh. Oh, are you on?
Yeah, I'm just showing you so that you can see.
Oh, okay. So the thing is called a 10-10-10, okay? So I'm going to explain how this works. we, after we came up with that vision, we said, I want you to write down write your personal vision. And so that is kind of how we came up with We'll Be a Family of Learners. So after that, I wanted them to write down 10 things that they're going to do every day to make that vision a reality. 10 things that you're going to do every single day to make that vision a reality. And then we listened to everybody's 10 and we found very common 10, okay? So everybody was writing their list, and then we found the things that were common. And so they came up with stuff like this. Students and parents need to feel welcomed. Building relationships with students and staff and community members. Communication flowing, celebrate everyone's success, high expectations for all, those kinds of things. And then I said, I want you to write down 10 things that you're going to hold me, your principal, accountable for. I left the room while they did that. And so that's what they did. And so while I was out in the hallway waiting on them to do that, what do you think I was doing? Yeah, 10 things that I'm going to hold the teachers accountable for. So that is the 10, 10, 10. So these are the things they asked of me. They asked me to make sure that I did communicate with them. And so that was their number one thing. Number two is be supportive, encouraged, understanding and approachable, reasonable and clear expectations, to show appreciation, consistent discipline, a positive role model, an advocate, and be compassionate. I mean, listen to those things. I mean, those things are not something that is unachievable by any means. But you can see their frame of mind back in 2017. They just wanted to be taken care of. They wanted somebody to listen to them, and they wanted, somebody that they can confide in. I mean, that is something I definitely could uphold. So when I came back in, I went over my 10. I don't have them with me, but the 10 that they wrote for me still hangs inside my office, hangs right in my office, so it's always visible for me. Because if it was important to them, it's important to me. So I wanted to share that activity with you as well.
We had a question about what is the best connection between campus and district-wide visions, and I think that is kind of, as you heard her say, they came up with a family of learners. That's still similar to what the district vision is. I think sometimes when we do our leadership or our visioning course, we have principles in there, and I think sometimes there gets to be confusion about, between the district and the campus. Unfortunately, there's some districts that have central admin that maybe is not as progressive. Maybe they have a check the box mentality on vision and mission. But then I think it's even more. Again, transformation begins with you. It begins with you. So if you want to be respectful, you want to make sure you don't, step on any toes, but you want to make sure that your vision kind of lines up with what the district vision is. If you don't have one, or if it's not something that's important, then be the transformational leader and make that happen. But you always want to go to your supervisor and tell them what you're doing and make sure, there's clarity on that. Say, I really believe in this. This is something I want to do. And most of the times, those central admin that don't have the nature of doing that themselves will let you run with it and say, go for it. But, you want to make sure you link that together. A family of learners, that fits in very well. But I encourage all the campuses to have their own vision, even our food service, our maintenance, transportation, all those things, to have a vision, because even the departments within the school has to have an idea of what they're trying to accomplish and where they're trying to go. So even our food service department has goals, and they have an idea of their vision of what they're trying to do. It fits in with what we're doing as a district, but just linking that together and make it make sense I think is crucial. Then all your departments are going to be able to transform and move at a more rapid pace and be more successful.
Okay. So the next question is, to what extent is your school or your district excellent? It's very important that you guys have a conversation with your staff and determine what is working, what are we doing really well. We can't always have discussions about what we're doing wrong or what we need to improve. They need to celebrate what we're doing right, and we don't need to mess with those things. Because if you don't identify with those things, and everybody, I mean, you might say that something is really good, but the teachers may not think so. So y'all need to really have those conversations about really what is excellent. So Morris and I were talking one day and like, okay, what are we doing really well on this campus or in this district? And so we jotted down a few things. Number one is that we feel that we have the best staff. And that if you know, they're our number one predictor of our student success. So you have to invest in your staff, and you've got to take the time to really grow your staff. We are just very fortunate to have some amazing people, and we will always tell you that our success is because of our people. Number two is the things that we're doing well is I think PLC has made a great time here as far as you know, we're really taking the time and being intentional about meeting, and not just because, you know, as you know, if you're a PLC school, it's not a meeting, it's who you are and what you believe in is how you're true PLC. And I'm not saying I know everything about a PLC, but I do know that we are making great strides to put the right things in place and talk and meet often. The next thing is we're doing mentoring program. We think we're doing well in that in our district. We started that last year, and we're supporting our new staff and hoping to constantly grow them and put them with a veteran teacher who can support them as well. And then the last thing, is, of course, is win time. We know that that system is definitely working. We see great strides in results from that. So if we had to list some certain things, those are things we don't want to mess with. Now, we want to make them better, but we don't want to move on without them next year as well. So write down your things that you're doing right, but have those conversations. You never want to go through this process alone. You want to always do it in a collaborative environment, because the minute you start doing it by yourself, you've lost that teamwork there. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Ron?
I agree. And the thing is, if you think about when you make that list and you write those things, she talked about investing in our staff. We've set up systems to build culture, build trust, build growth, and understand that when we have these conversations, we're talking about growth. We're talking about building skill and building a knowledge within ourselves as the model of a learner-centered school. PLCs, that's that conversation. We learn from each other. Again, being the model of a learner-centered school. Mentoring, again, investing in our staff, making sure that when this person is on boards, that we're there to support them and they feel supported and they have someone they can go to. And then win time. Win time is crucial, and I think in getting the Blue Ribbon Award that we received in 2019. I think that was really, we'll get into more next time, it's really, really student-centered. So if you look at those four things she mentioned, all that comes back to the vision. It comes back to everyone being on the same page, everyone moving in the same direction, and everybody believing that we are truly working toward being the model of a learner-centered school. Staff, students, even parents, administration, everyone. So all those things. So I think it's important to you understand what the genesis of your excellence is. What is causing those things to go really well, and celebrate that. We celebrate every chance we get. So make sure you have those celebrations, because when you get a win just drives a win. You got it. When you get that first win, I was listening to a speaker one time. He was on a reservation. He had some kiddos, and he talked about how poor. He said sometimes we even celebrate a growth in shoe size, but we celebrate something. And once we start celebrating, then people start enjoying that, and it starts just growing your momentum. So that's what's so important, is make sure you take time for those celebrations.
Okay. The last question that we have in our book study is, does your school or your district integrate their values and their behaviors that can be used to transform your practices and systems? I'm going to tell you right now, your values are very important. I wrote down, this is how you will know what your core values are, is that if you woke up tomorrow morning with enough money to retire for the rest of your life, would you continue to hold these core values? That's how you know that they're important to you. So if you woke up tomorrow morning and you're very wealthy, first, congratulations. And then the second is that you're probably going to hold on to these same core values. How many of you might have an administrator that you know that maybe you don't see eye to eye and that you don't have the same core values? Maybe they're not a collaborative superintendent or a collaborative principal and you're the assistant principal or whatever that may be, and you're never involved in anything, and they are making all the decisions without regard to anybody's input. Those kinds of things impact. So everybody, even in this group right now, every one of you have your own set of core values. He has his, I have mine, but at some point you've got to come together and say, what are the ones that we agree on that we're going to stand firm in? We have to stand for those core values because they're going to really impact our campus. Ms. Shalina is going to tell you something about that too.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to something that I remember my first week of being a superintendent. I was served with papers for a lawsuit, and that ended up putting us in federal court. And as we were preparing for that moment, I tell you, when you're setting up, it felt like 200 feet in the air, you're setting up in the witness stand, you're looking over at the judge, and all your school board is sitting out in the galley there watching you, and you feel like you've 100% in the right. If that's what it feels like to be 100% right, I don't want to know what it feels like to be wrong. But in that, as we prep for that hearing, as we prep for that trial, one thing our attorney, a very knowledgeable man that's been around a long time, that's done a lot of cases, he told me, he said, you just got to sit right down in the core of your truth, the core of your values, and you won't go wrong. And I've taken that with me over the last 14 years as superintendent and applied it to a lot of different cases. And I think that's true in transformation. You have to build those shared values. You have to make sure that all comes together. And then you can't go wrong in what you're doing. You're building it together because you know as long as you hold tight to that, it's not going to waver. Someone asking a question about what do you do with the resistant staff, no matter how hard you try. I think when you build those collective values and you build that collective community, and a lot of the things too with the systems we put in place, it begins to become peer accountability. With some of the hawk walks and the different things that we use in some of our systems, there's a level of expectation that comes once your colleagues are starting to rise. That puts pressure. That's just human behavior. It'll start putting pressure on the others to rise, or they'll. Another word of advice came from a food service director one time is you don't have to, if you have someone that's resistant or if you have someone that's giving you a hard time, and we always want to train up and train people and make sure you do all you can. But if you have someone that's resisting you and that does not want to do what you want them to do, you don't have to get rid of them. All you have to do is set the expectations, raise the expectations, and the people will either meet them or they'll leave. And we don't want to lose anybody. But if you've got somebody that is just want to come on board after multiple attempts and you feel like you've tried everything, you just set those expectations. Everybody else rises those expectations, and that person eventually will become uncomfortable and they'll leave. And I know that sometimes that takes time. We've had to have conversations with people. We've had to have interventions, have mentors. I mean, there's a whole gamut of things that we've tried along the way. There's not always just a straight answer, but I think the shared values, those common behaviors, and that peer accountability will pull a lot of those people who are pulling back, will move them forward in most cases.
So guys, I have a question for you in the chat box. I just kind of wanted to get a feel of your position of what you do every day. Will you put your position in there? Your principal, superintendent, whatever it may be, assistant?
Someone made a comment about the core values are there, but the effort is not. That's one thing we did a motto called Game On, and it was coaching, caring, effort was a big piece. That was kind of the next point behind growth mindset. Effort, and we started that originally started in with our kids and getting our kids motivated, but it also played a large role into our staff as well. So just trying to make those things intentional and focus on those areas when you see them.
Okay, I'm seeing what everybody's position is. I'm going to ask Ms. Shaline a question. So, Ms. Shaline, if you were a principal, an assistant principal, and maybe your principal feels differently, or maybe you're a principal and your superintendent feels like the school is fine and there's no transformation necessary, what would you feel that AP needs to do, or that principal would do?
I think I've been in different roles in different times and felt that. I think that even coming in here, I think what you have to do is what you would do in anything. You go back to the data and you make an action plan. You look at, I think you have to build urgency. You know, if you look at good to great, you look at a lot of those research out there, until you can get some urgency that there needs to be change is not going to happen. So I would suggest that you go back to the data, you build a solid case as to why you feel like this needs to be, and you present those results. When I came here originally, we were met standard. Our school board thought, man, we're knocking it out. We're meet standard. You either need improvement or you meet standard. We're meet standard. We're great. I said, okay, let's think about this a minute. What that really means is we're better than 5% of other schools out there. When you look at our cohort groups, we were 38, 39, 40, and out of 40 in every group. And so we had a lot of people who did youth sports. So I said, okay, you go to a basketball tournament on the weekend, you've got 40 teams, and you're going to get a participation ribbon. You were there, but you ended up 40. How's that going to make you feel? Well, we don't want that. I said, okay, well, that's where we're at. We are number 38, 39, and 40 out of our cohort of 40 schools. So how does that make you feel? Well, I don't like that. Well, then we need to start doing something and doing something about it. And so I had to build urgency in the school board for them to understand that we needed some things to happen and we needed some transformation to happen, because otherwise, we were just sitting there letting the good times roll, and we were on that cliff. We got our preliminary ratings that we were FFDF was going to be our rating for the district, and there was no urgency. So I had to build that. And that's kind of how I did it.
I'm going to end by talking about a problem of practice for just a minute, and I'm going to talk to you about my friend Kelly, who I know is on here. So Kelly, you might want to come forward for just a minute. Kelly is in the book, and she probably doesn't even realize it, but on what page is this? 12. Kelly and I were principals and together, and now she is a superintendent of a neighboring school. And so she is in our group for our students to compete in UIL events, which are academic events. So my school competes against her students in her district, and every year she beats everyone. Every year her school district is number 1. Out of the 5 schools that are competing, I'm number 4, and I cry a lot when that happens. And so the things that I do is I call Kelly up and I say, what in the heck are y'all doing? Because I cannot beat you. I'm very competitive. She is too. She's just as competitive as I am. But I put this in there because what we did is we had to do a problem of practice. And I had no idea that until he pointed it out of what problem of practice was when we were writing this book, that my own very behaviors and things that I was doing on campus actually had a name, and it was called a problem of practice. So I ask that you start to look at the things that you're doing every day and you figure out the problem of it. You present the issues to your staff or to a committee or a group of people, and you'll formulate a way to respond and act upon those things. So Mr. Lyon was going to talk about problem of practice for just a second.
Yeah, problem of practice, for those of you who've gone for an EDD or a doctoral degree, really started out with working on dissertations and doing a problem of practice in the work that you're doing. So we just kind of used that scope and did a micro problem of practice after each chapter. And the idea through this book, again, is what you need, what I need. It's in order for you to get to have a frame to work on some of these things. Just as we talked about vision, just as we talked about a lot of the work we don't do that in a silo, and we shouldn't do it in a silo. So I think a problem of practice, very simply, very simplified, is identifying, using the data, identifying the problem you have, having some scope and narrative to it so other people can understand it, working together as a team and formulating some questions and what you need to answer, and then go through that and have some standard meetings and some progress and milestones that you set up. So you work through that. And just like she was saying, the one thing that you've got to figure out what that one thing is and set a problem of practice around it, and then work on it as a leadership team or a group of teachers or whatever it may be in order for you to focus and get that done. And that's how we ended each chapter. And that's kind of the work how we want to end these book studies. So we want, our intent today is just to kind of introduce that problem of practice. I know you've looked at it in a book, but next time we're going to get into it a little deeper. And then by the third meeting, we really kind of want y'all to be thinking about, what do I want to go into next school year? And what do I want my problem of practice to be on my campus? What is something that I need to develop into a problem of practice so that I can begin transformation in my district, my campus, and so forth? So that just gives you a little background. It's not anything real tough. It's just a way to frame an example of work. It's something that you can work together collaboratively. And if there's questions, but in the meantime, in between these studies, send them to us, and then we'll try to answer them or in some form or fashion. Again, we're learning this as we go.
Right. So we have a couple minutes left. If you need anything, principals@gmail.com. You can email me. I will also put the recording in the website so you can go back and listen to it if you need to. So next week when we meet, my goal is to talk to you about morale, because morale is at risk when you're going through this process. I'm going to tell you right now, because you're going to be pushing your staff a little bit harder to think a little bit harder and things like that, and you're going to start to feel some pain. The next thing is we're going to actually talk to you about my schedule, how it looks, and the win time process. So make sure you're reading those things. I hope.
We got some questions about the link and the time and all that kind of stuff for next time.
Okay, so next week it's supposed to be back at the 4:00 time, just because I only had to change it this time because of the event that we have tonight. It's Teacher Appreciation, and we're doing food curbside out here, and they're picking up their meal. So I hope that you have enjoyed this, and if you need anything, please let me know. I hope you got value out of this and some things that you can start using right away. Anybody else want to say anything?
The same link work for next time?
I think so. I will put you a newsletter. I'll put it all on social media. I will make sure you have the right link. When I changed the time last time, it changed the link. So everybody's very welcome. I appreciate the thank yous right now. That means so much to me. I hope you have a very blessed day, guys.
Thank y'all.
Bye.